My name is Paula Hohti Eriksen. I'm the principal investigator of an ERC-funded Refashioning the Renaissance project, where we are exploring early modern fashion and fashion change, especially in 16th and 17th century Italy and Scandinavia. We just had a workshop on color, where we tried to make visible some of the color worlds that were associated with artisans' clothing in early modern period. One of the really interesting questions for us was, for example, that if we find black described in our documents, then what does it mean? So what we wanted to explore in part was, for example, the question of what is an artisan black? We were also interested in exploring other colors such as greens and yellows and some very bright pinks and reds in order to understand how these colors could be achieved. We were also very interested in exploring some of the new color terms that appeared in the documentation in the 17th century, such as wine red color or pigeon color, and how these colors could then be achieved and what they meant, and especially what they might have looked like. On day one, we tried a couple of different recipes to achieve blacks. One of the methods was quite straightforward and something that our artisans could have easily used. It was just simply putting together some oak galls with some iron and madder and Arabic gum to achieve a very good black, and that worked out very well. The color turned out to be quite nice very easily. The other method was much more complex. It involved first preparing the fabric by mordantting it and then dyeing it first in wool bath to dye blue, and then dipping the blue fabric into a madder bath, which is essentially a red dye, to make it black. A third method that we tried was to achieve a very good black using logwood, which was a novelty in the 17th century in Europe, imported from South America. The process was extremely simple and the result was stunning. It was very, very deep black, and it even worked on linen, which is quite hard sometimes to dye. On day two, we focused on yellows and greens. We started the day by testing some of the standardized recipes by Jo Kirby and her team at the National Gallery in London. We then moved on to test some of the historical recipes to understand some of the variations of these dyeing processes to achieve different shades and colors. We took our historical recipes from a 16th century Venetian dye manual called the Plicto. What we noticed was that adding potash really made a difference into the results. Potash is used in the dyeing process really to brighten up the colors, and you could really see, especially in the case of yellows, how bright the colors turned. From yellows we moved on to greens, and we were trying to achieve some very beautiful greens in two different ways. First, by dipping some of our yellow dyed samples into the indigo bath, and then vice versa. We did not actually notice that much difference between the two different methods, but what we did realize was that our dyer's broom, which was one of the dyestuffs that we used to obtain yellow, was not actually very bright, and it didn't produce very strong colors. And this just showed us how important it was for the dyers in the early modern period actually to test these samples in order to know how much dye stuff was needed, because the crop and the dye stuff varied according to different conditions such as weather and the time of the year or the region. Day three was dedicated to reds. We tried 4 different kinds of threads: cochineal, madder, Brazil wood and safflower. Cochineal was a very valuable dye stuff that produced some extremely deep and vivid shades such as this one. But lower classes, such as our artisans, could also get hold of quite deep and beautiful shades of reds using the period's novelty Brazil wood. This color was extremely intensive and beautiful, although it wasn't very light fast. One of the most stunning colors that we achieved in this workshop was this extremely bright pink that we obtained by dyeing with safflower. Dyeing with safflower requires a lengthy process of preparation, because before it can be used as a red dye, we have to rinse out all the yellow that is contained in the flowers. So what we did was that we rinsed the safflower petals over and over again at least 9-10 times until no yellow is coming out anymore. This workshop helped us not only to visualize the color worlds of our past, but it also helped us really to understand how complex processes were required from professional dyers to obtain the extremely beautiful colors that we see today in Renaissance paintings and surviving garments.